Hey everyone, it's Melissa Ashcroft here, the General Manager of the AAA Financial Group and host of the Property, Ownership, Wealth and Everything Related, also known as the P.O.W.E.R podcast, where we chat about everything money, taking charges of your finances and all things in between. Be sure to follow our socials at AAA Financial Group on Instagram and visit our website at www.aamortgageswithAt.com.au to read more about us and to book an appointment or talk to one of our experts. Today's guest I'm very excited to introduce you to is Adrian Dracopoulos. He's the BDM of private loans at Msquared Capital. Hi, Adrian.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. Adrian was coming to our office this morning to discuss some business and I just said, would you like to be on the podcast? So it was very late notice, but I'm sure we're in good hands with you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So look, I want to educate our clients today first on what private lending is. Many of them have used it, many have no idea. But then also to learn a bit about you and the company that you work for. So why don't we start with that? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be in your role now at Msquared.
Yeah, so I actually started off in mortgage broking, residential commercial mortgage broking.
At what? How old were you?
I was 19 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
So it was my first semester of university.
Wow.
And yeah, managed to secure a job in Bondi Junction at a boutique.
Very good.
Brokerage firm.
Yes.
And I loved it. I loved everything lending. I've always been surrounded by lending and I guess I stayed with that business for a while there.
Yeah.
And look, the current boss or managing director of Msquared Capital, one of the co-founders, was actually my original boss at 19. So
you've gotten to the lending side, but you've seen what it's like for the brokers out there.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because it usually goes from, you see a lot of typical lenders or bankers or BDM go to the broking side.
Yes.
I'm kind of the rare ones that
you're going the other way. Yeah, that's right. And so you went to uni. What did you do there?
I did accounting and finance at UNSW.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. And then what happened?
Look, I actually took a career break from mortgage broking. I thought,
good.
Why not chase a passion that I have out there?
Yeah.
And look, I wasn't sure whether I was going to pursue it professionally or just recreationally, but I always wanted to get my pilot's license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, it's a big jump.
Big jump.
Yeah, my parents had the same reaction.
Yes.
But yeah, look, when I think it was 26 at the time.
Yeah.
I'd finished up at my previous brokerage and just wanted to see how that went. So I went to flight school here in Sydney.
Oh my gosh.
And completed all my commercial pilot's license exams and got my private pilot's license.
So you can fly a plane?
I can fly a little plane, not a big plane, but yes.
And do you do it recreationally or you just did it, it's like on your CV kind of a thing?
Look, I haven't gone up in a while, but obviously flying is an expensive hobby, so I think when a bit more comfortable, I'll be able to do it a bit more recreationally and for fun. Okay,
cool. Well, look, I guess if I could get the opportunity to go on a flight, I'd trust you. I hope. But I want to do one of those seaplanes where they go to a nice restaurant or something. Yeah, so we'll have to do that. We have to settle some more deals.
And then we can do
that. And then we can get to that. We can get to that. So let's talk, I guess, more about deals. So I briefly mentioned before that Msquared is a private funder. So what does Msquared do and how are you different from other private funders?
Yeah, so look, we are a private lender based here in Sydney and we're established in 2017, but as I said before, both our managing directors were brokers themselves.
Yep.
And running a mezzanine private lending book on the side since about 2007. So it's been around for a while. And look, it obviously was a gap in the market. Obviously banks and at this stage non-banks were not fulfilling a certain segment. So it really was a perfect opportunity for Msquared to come in there. Yep. Look, we offer, the base what we offer are short-term funding solutions.
Sure.
For a range of clientele, whether that need to be, an urgent settlement or something that's not getting through with the bank. Yep. It just allows us to be a bit more flexible and outside of the box to get those scenarios that don't really fit the banks or the non-bank lending space.
Sure. And when you say short term, most people who have a home loan, they're 30 years, so they might think it's 10 years, but we're talking about what loan term?
Look, it can be a short term bridging as short as 3 months, anywhere up to about 24 to 36 months. So within that range, and I guess that's what the beauty of the private lending space is, gives you that flexibility and that tailored solution as to what you need.
Yes, and you guys will lend more on, say, a luxury dwelling, so a home worth over $3 million, than even a bank might. So just to give you a recent scenario and to give everyone one, we had a luxury home in Manly on the beaches, and the client could service the loan really well, but the bank would only let him get to 70%, whereas Msquared would go up to 75 on a bridging loan, which meant that he only needed to get that loan, that high loan amount, for a short period of time, and then he was going to sell the property. So, you know, that's something that you would use a private lender for, a short-term scenario where it doesn't quite fit with the bank's lending appetite. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely spot on.
Cool. Phew. It's good that I kind of, have a grasp. Seeing as it's, M cubed, we said we'd call it. I could be the third M.
Third M in there.
Yes, but not to be confused with triple M. But I don't even think that radio station's around anymore, but we're triple A. So look, let's not confuse the matter too much. But yeah, certainly, like, as a business, AAA used to be 50% bank and 50% non-bank. And now, over the past, say, 18 months, we're 75% non-bank and 25% bank, which is mainly because our core clientele are self-employed.
Yeah.
But also and just to differentiate, a non-bank is a different lending altogether. So go back to some of our other podcasts on that. But really, private loans are more short-term in nature and solve a problem.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else can I go through? I've kind of had this full list of things to ask Adrian. We kind of just covered it off in our chat. So what would you think is a misconception about a private lender in the market?
Yeah, look, private lenders, it's an interesting space, and it's obviously a growing space as well. They're, traditionally been quite a small market, and it's slowly increasing here in Australia. I think in the US and Europe, you're seeing private lending take about 40 to 60% of the market, whereas here it's a much less, probably below 10% at the moment. So some of the common misconceptions are interest rates at 20%, construction only, second mortgages, all that jazz. So, I mean, look, typically, you can see privates now around Australia below 10%, below 9% rates, which are really competitive and really bridging that gap between bank, non-bank, and private as well.
Definitely.
And I guess a large misconception are, all the high fees that are incurred, whether that be exit, whether that be default and whatnot. So there are a lot of lenders out there, and I guess my advice to anyone looking to go within the private lending space is to know your private lender really well. Know the policy, hear feedback from your aggregator, other brokers, just so you know the reputation as well of what
absolutely
the private lender you'll be pursuing.
Yeah, and I think as a broker, there's a lot of misconceptions because it's all, as Adrian said, it's all seen as someone that's sharky or not. But if you've had a broker, or if you need to know, like, I know everybody in this space, but it really is about, people who you've got a track record with and also an experience with. So, you want to make sure that you're doing the best by the client, because it's only going to ever result in repeat business. And I think that's what some of the private lenders out there miss the mark. They just want to collect a lot of extra fees or something. It's like, well, this is a really good client, and you're making them, you're overcharging for something that the rest of the market might not necessarily be charging on. And that's certainly why I've used Msquared as well. So just on that, ASIC recently did a report on capital markets. I'm not sure if you read it, but I'm going to include it in our show notes. And it did say about how the rise of non-bank capital is really increasing in Australia, and people are seeing the benefits of it. So I'll add that into our notes at the bottom of this podcast. So tell me about one deal that stands out in your memory, like one experience that's just been either a great one or, something that you'd like to share about, maybe your favourite deal that you've ever done. And you don't need to say it's one of my deals.
Well, there have been many. Look, it's hard to pinpoint one exactly.
Sure.
I guess a good showcase of what we've been able to do and how far we've come and show the capability as well is we had a client with a luxury asset. in Sydney eastern suburbs. And I think it was worth in between 20 to 25 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and look, they needed cash out to put towards business expense, business uses.
Yep.
And look, they didn't have any other solution at that time except getting it from that property. And, you know, we managed to get 75% on a property that large and a loan size that large, and it was settled within 2 weeks. So it was, you know, it's really comforting or really impressive for me to see the business grow with that capability of, you know, you can turn something around that big and that quickly as well and provide a solution that the customer needed. And, you know, everyone walked away happy in that instance.
Yeah, fantastic. And then I guess it's about, for private lending as well, what the exit is on that. So how they're going to pay you back is the biggest biggest question that a private lender could ask. So to have all that tied in to a large loan is, you know, is very impressive. And in 2 weeks. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we never like to promise our clients how quickly we can deliver on a settlement, but we've even worked on one. I think we settled in 3 working days.
I think it was 3 working
that
days.
That was a lot. That's why Adrian was here today, to find out what other ones we could settle in the next 3 days. So yeah, and I just think, you know, it's important for people to understand this side of the market and know that there is that side, but it's not always a solution for everybody. So I know Msquared don't do construction, so you do bridging type loans and problem solving loans. Would you lend against, say, a commercial asset or an industrial asset as well?
Yeah. Look, we lend against commercial, industrial, residual stock. We do lend against residential assets as well, as long as it's for business purposes as well.
Sure. Okay. And the whole owner-occupied thing, that's very much a no-no in private lending at the moment, but it hasn't always been. Why do you think that's really something that the industry is kind of reforming on? As in, what that means is, let's say we have a client with a home worth, say, 1.5 million, and they want to borrow $1 million, and the interest, even under 10%, is, you know, another couple $100,000. So it's hard to get an exit out of it, and they might not necessarily be using it for business. They've got other problems with their with their family life or other debts that they need to repay. So what's your stance on the owner-occupied lend?
Yeah, look, obviously with a lot coming to light, we don't want to come anywhere near owner-occupied loans or personal loans or personal investment, because it doesn't really fall under the NCCP bracket that, you know, you're not protected by the code. So I guess a big part of what we do and when we vet deals is to ensure that it's not used for that purpose and make sure that it is for business purpose. I know regulation's still quite in its infancy among private lenders, and that's why it's really important, and to undertake the private lender does that due diligence themselves.
Absolutely.
Coming into, you know, any scenarios or loans that they shouldn't be writing.
Sure. So just to kind of transition then over to where you get your money from. As I understand it, a lot of private lenders have investors that invest into loans or invest into the company. So if there's someone out there that go, oh wow, these guys know what they're doing, I want to invest, how does that happen? Do they invest on a loan by loan basis, or what's your approach on that?
Yeah, look, each private lender has their own funding sources and their kind of, I guess, varied ways that they get their capital. Specifically for us, how we do it, we have, you know, 2 pooled funds, conservative and a high yield. And slowly introducing now our retail fund, which is the 3rd one. We also have a contributory nature, which is a deal by deal case that, you know, certain investors want to invest in. And then we've only now transitioned as well into securing a funding wholesale line as well. So
great.
Yeah, depending on each private lender, there are different sources of capital or other ways that investors can be a part, you know, of the private credit market themselves. But it does vary from lender to lender. Okay,
and so would you say to anyone listening that's interested to reach out to you?
I can put them in the right direction. Definitely.
Well, let's do that then. And look, if anyone is after a loan, come to me and I'll talk to Adrian and see if it's a good fit for you or for Msquared, because often that's the hard bit, is connecting the right deal with the right lender. And so just to bring it back to what Triple-A do, that's our area, and my personal area of expertise is knowing how to place the right loan with the right funder. So yeah, please reach out, and I hope you enjoyed today. And thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we'll have to get you back on again when, next year or maybe even later this year, and just get an update on everything that's happening in your life and in M-Squared's world.
Of course.
Cool.
Love to. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. And thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers. Bye.